everyone, it's Heather Nichols for Tailored Expressions, and today we're getting crafty for Halloween. I've got several spooky projects to share with you that I created with the new If You Dare collection. It all starts with the If You Dare Stamp and Stencil combo set. The background stamp features all sorts of potion bottles, and the set of 4 stencils adds all of the details. The If You Dare cutting plate die cuts out all of the potion bottles at one time. The potion bottle die and clear set creates a larger potion bottle that can also be a shaker. For sentiments, I'm using the Ghostly Greetings stamp set as well as the coordinating dies. I'm using just the background stamp from the Spiderweb Cling and Clear combo set. I'm using a die from the additional Mini Slim Layer Stacklets die collection, and I'll be using the A2 thin frame cutting plate die. For ink, I'm using candy corn and pumpkin, kiwi and dill pickle, passion fruit and dragon fruit, Oreo, oyster and toffee, sugar cube, and Nocturne Versifying Clair. I'm using pixie spray to hold my stencils in place. I'm using my bitty blender brushes. For embossing, I have white embossing powder, Versamark ink in my powder tool, and I'll also use a heat tool. I've got Happy Medium iridescent glitter and my Nuvo media spatula. For splatters, I've got my Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white ink, chocolate truffle liquid watercolor, and a water brush. I'm using a 1/16 inch hole punch and burlap twine. And for adhesive, I have multimedia matte, foam sticky strips, and I'll use a few other kinds of foam adhesive as well. I'm starting off with the If You Dare Stamp and Stencil combo set. I'm stamping the background stamp with Oreo ink using my Misty. Once I have the stamp set up, I'll close the lid to pick up the stamp, and then I'll add cardstock. I'm using sugar cube cardstock, and I'm just using a little adhesive to hold it in place. I'll ink up the stamp with Oreo ink and then close the lid of the Misty to stamp the image onto the cardstock. There are 4 stencils to add details to the potion bottles. We'll start with stencil number 1, which is going to add corks to the tops of several of the bottles. I'm using a thin layer of pixie spray on the back of my stencil to hold my stencil in place, and there are etched guides on the stencil to help you line it up over the stamped image. For this first layer, I'm applying toffee ink with my bitty blender brush. When applying the ink, I move my brush in a clockwise and counterclockwise direction to fill in all of the openings. When I'm done, I'll remove that stencil, and then I'll add the next stencil, stencil number 2. I'll use the etched guides to line everything up. These next 3 stencil layers are adding fills to the potion bottles, as well as some really fun mystical and magical details around the potion bottles. I'm starting off stenciling this layer with candy corn ink, and then I'm adding shading with pumpkin ink. Moving on to layer number 3, and this layer I am stenciling with kiwi ink and adding shading with dill pickle ink. My color combo for my projects that I'm sharing today include oranges, greens, and purpley pinks, which are perfect for Halloween, but there are so many other possibilities that you could do. You could go dark and moody with dark blues and purples, or maybe create a love potion card with pinks and reds. Okay, layer number 3 is done, and we're ready to move on to the last layer, layer number 4. I'm starting off layer number 4 with dragon fruit ink, and then I'm adding shading to that with passion fruit ink. Before removing the last stencil, I wanted to add sparkle, and I'm doing that with the Happy Medium iridescent glitter. I'm using a Nuvo media spatula to apply the Happy Medium across the stencil. I'll spread that out so it fills in all of the openings evenly. Once I've applied the Happy Medium, I will remove the stencil, and that will reveal the completed image, which is super fun and sparkly. I'll set this aside to dry. I want that Happy Medium to dry completely. While that's drying, let's create tags using the potion bottle die and clear combo set. I'm cutting out the potion bottle with the insert to create a frame for a shaker tag, and I'm cutting that out of kiwi, dragon fruit, and candy corn cardstock. I also cut out solid potion bottles in the same colors and corks for the bottles out of toffee cardstock. I added shading to the potion bottle pieces using my bitty blender brushes. I shaded the candy corn bottle with pumpkin ink. I shaded the dragon fruit bottle with passion fruit ink, and I shaded the kiwi bottle with dill pickle. I added splatters to the potion bottles using chocolate truffle liquid watercolor and bleed proof white ink. I picked up the color with a water brush and then tapped the brush over my finger to add the splatters. I die cut the solid potion bottle from a piece of window acetate, and I'm just cutting off the neck part at the top. I only need the portion of the die cut to fit behind the frame at the bottom of the bottle. I added the acetate behind each frame of each bottle, and I also added the corks to the tops of the bottles. The potion bottle set includes some fun things to include inside your shaker, including stars, bones, and pieces to create eyeballs. To put the eyeballs together, you're going to use the stamp to add the veins into the white part of the eyeball. I added that stamp to an acrylic block and then stamped onto the eyeballs using oyster ink. Once the whites of the eyeballs are stamped, you can add the colored piece for the iris of the eye and the black piece for the pupil of the eye. Next, to create the shaker element, I'm using a foam sticky strip. Once you take the backing paper off of the strip, it's super flexible. You can curve it right around the edge of the frame on the bottom part of the potion bottle. And then I attached another piece of sticky strip right along the bottom edge of the bottle. Make sure that everything connects so your shaker bits don't fall out. I also added foam sticky strip pieces to the neck of the bottle. Next, we'll add the shaker bits into the bottle. We're going to do that by adding everything onto the solid potion bottle base. I'll make sure everything is kind of pushed towards the center of that bottom part of the bottle. I'm putting a few eyeballs in. I've got some bones that I cut out of sugar cube cardstock, and I have stars that I cut out of silver glitter cardstock. I'm also adding just a few sequins from the Snow Flurries sequin mix as a little bit of extra filler. Then I'll make sure all of the backing paper is off of the foam sticky strips, and I'll set that frame piece right over the top of the base. I'll do the same for the other two potion bottles, and the result is 3 fun little shakers that are going to be super cute as Halloween tags. There's a tag die in the potion bottle set, so you can label your potion bottles with fun Halloween sayings. I cut the tags out of sugar cube cardstock, and then I'm stamping the sayings from the clear set with Nocturne VersaFine Clear ink. I added the tags to the bottles with a piece of burlap twine. I wrapped the twine around the bottle neck just a few times and then threaded the tag on and just secured it with a knot. To make these potion bottles into tags, I used a hole punch at the top of the bottle, and then I threaded burlap twine through the hole and just tied a small knot at the top to secure it. Now these cute little tags are ready to tie onto Halloween treats. Now that the tags are done, let's go back to that stamped and stenciled panel. I actually stamped and stenciled a few extra panels up as well. One of the panels I'm leaving as is, and the other two I'm going to die cut with the If You Dare cutting plate die. This die cuts out all of the potion bottles in the design with one pass through your die cut machine. I stamped a background to use on one of my cards using the Spiderweb stamp. I'm just using the background stamp here. I'm adding that into my MISTI, and I'm stamping the image with sugar cube ink onto a piece of toffee cardstock. I added splatters both to the potion bottle panel and the Spiderweb background. I chose the Boo to You and Happy Halloween sentiments from the Ghostly Greetings stamp set. I'm embossing these in white on black licorice cardstock. So I'll condition the cardstock with my powder tool, and then I'll stamp these sentiments with Versamark ink. I sprinkled the sentiments with white embossing powder, and then I used my heat tool to melt the embossing powder until it was shiny. I cut out the sentiments with the coordinating dies, and now it's time to put our cards together. I'm starting off with a mini slim card. I took that Spiderweb background and I cut it out with one of the dies from the additional mini slim layer stacklets die collection. I'm taking the die cut potion bottles and I'm adding those across that Spiderweb background in a row. Once I had the bottles where I wanted them to go, I adhered them to a card with a combination of adhesives. I adhered some potion bottles directly to the background, and then I popped a few up with the different thicknesses of foam adhesive. I took extra shaker bit elements from the potion bottle tags, the eyeballs, the bones, and the stars, and I added them to the potion bottles, adhering them in place with multimedia matte. To add the sentiment, I added thin foam adhesive to the back of the die cut piece, and then I added that right above the potion bottles on the background. Finally, for this card, I used the 1x3 foam strips. I trimmed them down just a little bit to fit on the back of the background panel, and then the panel is adhered to a black licorice mini slim card base. For my other card that features the potion bottle background, I'm adding a black licorice frame that I cut out with the A2 thin frame cutting plate die. I'm adhering that with multimedia matte. I added the Happy Halloween sentiment to the panel with thin foam adhesive. For an extra touch of sparkle, I added a few of the silver glitter cardstock stars around the sentiment, adhering those in place with multi-medium matte. And finally, to finish up this card, I added the panel to a toffee card base. Here's a closer look at the Halloween cards and potion bottle tags that I created with the If You Dare collection from Tailored Expressions. These are going to be so much fun to send out and add to treats for Halloween. You can find the supplies that I used to create these projects in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Tailored Expressions YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time.